There are certain requests that appear harmless on the surface, yet their roots stretch deep into the soil of manipulation and psychic erosion. To live a whole life, a life untouched by the poisons of deceitful demands, you must recognize the 5 sacred parts of yourself no one should ever be allowed to take. First, stay away from anyone who asks for your identity. There are those who knowingly or unknowingly will seek to mold you into a shape that fits their unfinished dreams. They will smile as they clip your wings, whispering that it is for love, for peace, for a better you. But the moment you abandon who you are, the wild forests of your instincts, the sacred call of your inner being, you step into exile. An exile so quiet, most never realize they have left themselves behind. True connection does not require you to sacrifice your essence. There is no possession more sacred, more primal than your identity. It is the living tapestry woven from the 1,000 unseen threads of your existence, your instincts, your dreams, your forgotten memories, your silent choices. It is not a costume you wear. It is the marrow of your bones, the pulse that beats beneath every word you speak and every silence you keep. To be asked to surrender your identity, whether softly or violently, is to be asked to murder something holy within yourself. Some will not ask directly. They will not say, "Give me your soul," for they themselves are often unaware of the depth of their hunger. Instead, they will present you with 1,000 small invitations to become less yourself and more what they require. They will praise the parts of you that serve their narrative and scorn the parts that remind them of their own incompleteness. You will notice, slowly at first, how your laughter changes in their presence, how your dreams grow quieter, how you second, guess your intuition before it even speaks. The danger lies not only in the external demand, but in the internal temptation to comply. There is a deep, archetypal terror within the human heart, the fear of being abandoned, exiled, unloved. In moments of weakness, you may offer your authenticity in trade for belonging. You may twist yourself into a pleasing form, believing that by doing so you can earn the safety of acceptance. But the acceptance you gain at the price of your true self is a lie, and your soul knows it. In the beginning, it may seem easier to betray yourself than to risk losing the connection. Yet every small act of self-abandonment compounds. What was once a single compromise becomes a pattern, a ritual of self-erasure, until one day you look in the mirror and the eyes staring back at you are unfamiliar. Your laughter feels scripted. Your sadness feels foreign. You have become a ghost of the person you were born to be. The tragedy is that those who ask for your identity do not know what they are truly requesting. They believe they want your loyalty, your love, your agreement, but what they are asking for is your life. They are asking you to commit an invisible suicide for the sake of their comfort. They are asking you to numb the parts of yourself that disturb their illusions, to amputate the wildness that threatens their fragile constructions of reality. And though their request may be veiled in smiles, in promises, in dreams of togetherness, the soul hears the truth. Die for me. There is a profound violence in the demand for your identity, a spiritual violence that leaves no visible scars, but fractures the foundation of the self. When you sacrifice who you are for another, you do not only lose yourself, you also rob the world of your unique presence. You deny the greater unfolding of life, the particular vision, the specific medicine, the irreplaceable wisdom that only you could offer. You become a cipher, a hollow echo in a universe that birthed you to sing your own song. The path of individuation, of becoming wholly and fully yourself, requires a ruthless loyalty to your inner truth, even when that truth isolates you. Especially when it isolates you, because the authentic path is narrow and the crowd walks elsewhere. It demands courage to walk it. It demands the willingness to be misunderstood, disliked, even abandoned by those who cannot embrace the wholeness of who you are. But it is the only path that leads to life, true life, not mere survival, not mere acceptance, but a life lit from within by the flame of your own essence. No one else can walk this path for you. No external voice, no external system, no external love can substitute for the internal compass of your true being. And so, when anyone demands your identity as payment for their approval or affection, you must recognize it for what it is, a false offering, a poisoned chalice. No matter how tempting, no matter how lonely the refusal may seem, you must turn away. You must. Boundaries are not barriers to love. They are the very architecture that makes love possible. Without the clear demarcation of where you end and another begins, there can be no true meeting, only entanglement, confusion, and eventual collapse. A boundary is not a wall to keep people out, it is a door through which only the worthy may enter, and even then, only with respect. To ask someone to surrender their boundaries is to ask them to dismantle the citadel of their sovereignty. It is to demand that they expose the most tender parts of their being to forces that may not have their well-being at heart. Boundaries are born from the deep knowing of the self, from the recognition of what nurtures your soul and what poisons it, what strengthens your spirit and what depletes it. They are forged through experience, pain, reflection, and a growing reverence for the sanctity of your own life. And yet, there are those who will seek to erode these sacred lines. They may do so under the banner of love, of loyalty, of intimacy. They will call you selfish for protecting yourself. They will accuse you of being closed off, rigid, untrusting. They will frame your no as a betrayal, your caution as an act of aggression. But hear this: anyone who cannot accept your boundary does not love you, they love the control they imagine they can exert over you. The erosion of boundaries often begins subtly, a small push here, a small guilt trip there, the expectation that you always be available, that you always say yes, that your needs bend to their desires. In time, what begins as minor concessions metastasizes into a pattern of self-betrayal so insidious you hardly notice its growth. Like a river wearing down the rock, their constant insistence reshapes the very contours of your spirit if you allow it. And why do we allow it? Because we are afraid of disappointing others, afraid of being perceived as difficult or unloving, afraid, at the deepest level, that setting a boundary will result in abandonment, that our very existence is only tolerable if we are endlessly compliant. This fear is ancient, buried in the roots of our psyche, tied to the primal terror of being cast out from the tribe, left to perish in solitude. But the cost of living without boundaries is far greater than the cost of loneliness. To abandon your boundaries is to invite a slow death of the soul. You may continue to move, to speak, to act, but inside, the vital spark dims. You find yourself drained after every encounter, resentful yet unable to articulate why. You lose the sense of where you end and the other begins. You become a mirror reflecting their needs, their moods, their desires, and in doing so, you cease to be a sovereign being. You become a function of someone else's will, an instrument for their comfort. There is a terrible irony here. The very boundaries you are told will push others away are, in truth, the only structures that allow real intimacy to occur. For intimacy requires two whole beings meeting, not two fragmented halves clinging to each other out of fear. Without boundaries, what masquerades as closeness is often nothing more than codependency, a mutual strangling rather than a true union. Your no is sacred. Your no is an affirmation of life, your life. It is the recognition that your energy, your time, your heart are finite and precious and must be spent with discernment. Every time you say no to what harms you, you say yes to what heals you. Every time you protect your sacred ground, you honor the deep wisdom that has been etched into your being through years of living, suffering, learning, and rising again. And so, when someone pushes against your boundaries, when they demand you reshape your very self to fit their comfort, you must not answer them with guilt or apology. You must answer them with the silent, immovable strength of a mountain that knows it was not shaped for the approval of passing clouds. You must. There is a silence that is holy, born from wisdom, from reverence, from the deep wells of contemplation. And then there is a silence that is coerced, forced upon the soul like a shroud to smother the living spirit. It is this second silence, the demanded silence, that must be recognized and resisted with every fiber of one's being. When someone asks you for your silence, they are often asking for far more than the absence of your voice. They are asking for the suppression of your truth, the concealment of your intuition, the burial of your authentic expression beneath the heavy soil of their own fear. They do not want your peace, they want your compliance. They are not seeking harmony. They are seeking to maintain a fragile illusion that your truth would shatter. The pressure to be silent is often cloaked in seemingly noble language. You will hear that speaking your truth is selfish, that it disrupts the unity of the group, that it brings unnecessary conflict into spaces that should be kept peaceful. But true peace is never achieved through repression. It is not born from the absence of conflict, but from the resolution of it, from the courageous exposure of what lies hidden in the shadows. When you are asked to be silent, examine carefully who benefits from your silence. Is it you, gaining clarity and strength through chosen stillness? Or is it another, avoiding the discomfort of facing what your words would reveal? When silence is demanded, it is almost always because the truth you carry threatens the false structures upon which another's sense of safety is built. They ask you to suppress your reality so they can continue living inside their dream. And often they will not ask outright. The demand for silence is rarely spoken plainly. It comes in subtle gestures, the averted eyes when you begin to speak something difficult, the awkward laughter that meets your sincerity, the changing of the subject when your pain leaks through your carefully constructed armor. It comes in the form of abandonment when you dare to name what is real, in the withdrawal of affection when you refuse to pretend. In time, you may find yourself silencing yourself preemptively, feeling the unsaid expectations weigh heavy in the room even before a word is spoken. This self-silencing is among the most corrosive forces a soul can endure. For every truth left unspoken, every intuition dismissed, every boundary softened for the sake of others' comfort, another thread of connection to your own inner being unravels. You begin to doubt the value of your perceptions. You begin to guess the rightness of your feelings, and eventually you may come to believe the lie that your voice is dangerous, unwelcome, unworthy of being heard. But the soul was not created to be a prisoner of silence. The soul was fashioned to express, to cry out, to proclaim its unique vision of existence into the world. When you silence yourself for the sake of others, you betray not only your own nature, but the sacred responsibility you carry to bring forth your portion of truth. For your voice, singular and unrepeatable, is a thread in the vast tapestry of collective human awakening. Without it, the design is incomplete. To be silent when truth burns in your chest is to collude with falsehood. It is to allow the sickness of denial to fester not only in your own being, but in the collective soul of those around you. Every lie left unchallenged grows stronger. Every truth left unspoken dies a little in the womb of possibility. And thus the world is shaped not only by the actions of the wicked, but by the silences of the good. Your voice is an instrument of light. It carries within it the medicine that some, even those who fear it, desperately need. To withhold it is not an act of mercy, but an act of abandonment of yourself and of the world you are called to heal. And so, when you are asked to be silent, when you feel the invisible hands closing around your throat, urging you to swallow your knowing you must, there is a purpose that resides within every human being, ancient and unrepeatable, seated in the soul long before the mind could name it. It is not a task assigned by society, nor a role granted by the expectations of others. It is a sacred calling, a summons from the invisible realms to manifest a unique pattern of existence into the visible world. To betray this calling, whether through fear, convenience, or the demands of another, is to fracture the very core of one's being. Your purpose is not something you choose, it is something you discover. It emerges slowly, often painfully, through the crucible of experience, through the dreams that haunt you at night, through the passions that refuse to be extinguished despite 1,000 attempts to silence them. It reveals itself in the moments when you feel most alive, most aligned, most at home in the universe, and once glimpsed, it cannot be unseen. It becomes the true north of your inner compass, calling you forward even when the path is dark and uncertain. Yet, there are those who, seeing the light of your purpose, will seek to dim it. They may do so consciously, out of jealousy, or unconsciously, out of fear. Your devotion to your own unfolding threatens the structures of those who have chosen comfort over growth, conformity over authenticity. Your courage to follow your deeper calling reminds them of the compromises they have made with their own lives. And rather than face their inner betrayals, they will ask you sweetly, urgently, desperately to betray yourself instead. They will ask you to delay your dreams for the sake of practicality, to soften your vision so it will not disrupt the delicate equilibrium they have constructed around themselves. They will frame your devotion as selfishness, your authenticity as rebellion, your longing as a foolish fantasy. And if you are not fiercely loyal to the whisperings of your soul, you will begin to believe them. You will begin to doubt the fire within you, to question the worth of your passions, to see your sacred calling as an inconvenience rather than the very reason for your existence. Purpose is a dangerous thing to those who live without it. It stirs the stagnant waters. It calls into question the comfortable illusions. It reminds all who encounter it that life is not merely about survival, not merely about fitting in, not merely about fulfilling roles scripted by others. Life is about becoming relentlessly, courageously, ceaselessly the full expression of the mystery that breathes you into being. To abandon your purpose for another's approval is to enact a slow death upon yourself. It is to walk a path that is not your own, to harvest fields that yield no nourishment for your soul. You may achieve success by the world's standards. You may be praised for your sacrifices, but inside you will feel the gnawing emptiness of a life unlived. No accolade, no applause, no relationship, no comfort can fill the void left by the abandonment of your deeper call. And so, when someone asks you to put aside your purpose, to shrink it, to defer it, to compromise it for their sake, you must recognize the gravity of what is being asked. They are not merely asking for a favor. They are asking you to sever the thread that connects you to the source of your own life. They are asking you to exile yourself from the kingdom you were meant to inhabit. They are asking you to become an echo rather than a voice, a replica rather than a revelation. Your purpose may not always be grand in the eyes of the world. It may not fit neatly into categories or titles. It may be misunderstood, resisted, even ridiculed. But it is yours as sacred trust between your soul and the mystery that sent you here. To guard it is to honor the life that pulses through your veins. To pursue it, even in the face of rejection or loneliness or failure, is to align yourself with the deeper currents of existence that seek, always, to bring more being into being. There will be times when following your purpose feels like walking against the wind, like swimming upstream through waters thick with doubt and fear. You will be tempted to turn back, to settle, to surrender. You will be tempted to believe that comfort is enough, that safety is the same as fulfillment. But in the deepest chambers of your heart, you will know the truth, that nothing can substitute for the aliveness that comes from being in right relationship with your calling. And so, when the world or those closest to you beckon you to abandon your purpose in favor of acceptance, convenience, or approval, you must. Guilt is a heavy stone, often placed upon your shoulders not by the natural law of conscience, but by the subtle manipulations of those who seek to control. There is a holy guilt, the voice of your deeper self correcting you when you have truly strayed from your path, when you have caused harm that your soul cannot reconcile. But there is also a false guilt, an infection of the spirit, planted there by those who would have you believe that your very existence, your choices, your becoming, are offenses against them. False guilt is insidious because it wears the mask of virtue. It whispers that you are wrong for choosing yourself, that you are cruel for setting boundaries, that you are selfish for listening to the voice within rather than the chorus without. It wraps its tendrils around your heart, tightening each time you move closer to authenticity, to freedom, to truth. And if you are not vigilant, you will mistake this constriction for morality. You will mistake the suffocation of your soul for the voice of responsibility. There are those who have mastered the art of projecting their discomfort onto you, crafting a narrative in which your evolution is painted as betrayal. Every step you take toward wholeness becomes framed as an injury against them. Every time you say no, it is called abandonment. Every time you tell the truth, it is labeled cruelty. And every time you protect your sacred energy, you are accused of being heartless. They construct a world where your guilt becomes the currency by which they purchase your obedience. And why does this false guilt find such fertile soil in the heart? Because you are human, and in your humanity you long to belong, to be loved, to be seen as good. The archetypal fear of exile lies dormant in the psyche, waiting for moments like these to awaken. The mind, seeking relief from this inner tension, often folds easily into the shape others demand, mistaking the alleviation of guilt for the restoration of peace. But this peace is a lie. It is the deadening of the spirit masquerading as harmony. To live beneath the tyranny of false guilt is to live a life of constant apology for the simple fact of being yourself. It is to shrink, to edit, to explain, to excuse every sacred instinct, every necessary decision, every natural movement of your soul. It is to carry a burden not your own, to suffer for sins you have not committed, to offer sacrifices at altars built by the insecurities of others. True guilt, when it comes, teaches and releases. It invites reflection, repentance, and then liberation. It is a wise teacher, not a cruel master. It does not seek to chain you to the past, but to initiate you into a deeper integrity. False guilt, on the other hand, demands endless penance for crimes fabricated in the minds of those who cannot bear the consequences of your autonomy. When you are asked to carry guilt for simply existing in your truth, recognize it as a seduction into bondage. See clearly that you are being asked not to atone, but to submit. You are being asked to feel wrong for refusing to play a role that was never meant for you, to apologize for fulfilling a destiny that frightens those who would prefer you remain small. And so, when guilt rises unbidden in your chest, when the familiar ache of shame begins to pulse in your veins at the very moment you claim your rightful path, pause. Ask yourself, is this guilt a signal from my soul calling me back to honor and compassion? Or is it the echo of old chains, a ghostly voice from a story that was never truly mine? Listen carefully. Discern fiercely. For your liberation depends on your ability to tell the difference. You were not born to live a life governed by guilt. You were born to live a life governed by the deeper laws of authenticity, courage, and love, not a love that demands your diminishment, but a love that calls forth your fullness. Not a love that thrives on your submission, but a love that celebrates your sovereignty. And so, when anyone, seeks to lay upon you the heavy cloak of guilt for daring to follow the voice within, when they ask you to fold yourself back into the narrow spaces you have outgrown, you must